today we're going to have a look at note names that include accidentals, and this is actually part of the Trinity College Grade 2 Theory syllabus. And just to recap, we're first going to have a look at the notes that are just on the stave, on the lines and spaces, the 5 lines and spaces of the stave. And we're going to have a look at the right hand notes first. Okay, so we're gonna not look at the leader line notes, the ones that I'm showing here. That one, this one, that one, and that one. We're gonna start with that one there, and we're gonna work our way up to the very top, like that. So those notes are by far the easiest to remember because we can employ rhymes. So here on screen I've just deleted the space notes, and we're just going to work with the line notes. Now please don't get confused. In between these two line notes there are a space note that are in between right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our rhyme, or we're going to learn what the rhyme is to remember these notes very easy. And the notes is E, G, B, D, and F. And very importantly, we can use the rhyme. We're going to say every good boy deserves fun. And then we have all the note names covered for the line notes. And remember, whenever we need to work out a note, if it's a line note, so say for example we need to work out the note, what is that note right there? Then we're going to go and we're just going to say, okay, so the first line note is an E. Every good boy, and we ended at boy, so that will be a B. So remember the rule, always from the bottom up to the top. Right, important as well is that the notes in between that are in the spaces is not going to spell or use a rhyme. We're just going to say a word. Face. F-A-C-E. F-A-C and E. So we're going to say, let me just move that up a little bit. There we go. So we're going to say face. F-A-C-E. So then if we have a look at the alphabet, it's going to go E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Remember, bear in mind, if you can't remember, that the music alphabet only goes from A to G and then it restarts. So because we started on E, E, F, G, A, there we restarts because it only goes up until G, B, C, D, E, and F. Now, if you look very closely, it's like the notes are on a ladder, and we've got a first step, which is E. If you look closely, the notes are like on steps. So I'm standing and I'm looking down at my steps, and this is the ground. And this here, when we move up, this is each step. And if I step on the edge, which is the line notes, and then I step onto the first step, and then onto the edge and onto the first step. So it's like climbing steps, but we're not climbing the steps literally from platform to platform. We're stepping on the edge to the platform, on the edge to the platform, on the edge to the platform, and so on. And the leader line notes, we call them leader line notes because we draw a little leader line for each note below or above the stave. If we have a look at the notes below the stave, we'll see that here we have an E, which was on a line. So the next one will be just touching the stave, the bottom of the stave, right there. And going backwards in the alphabet, we're going to see E becomes D, D becomes C, which is, by the way, also middle C, the most important note on the stave or the grand stave. B, finally A, and then G. So then for these notes here, we're going to have G followed by A, B, C, and D. There we go. So we have G, A, B, C, and D. And these notes are the easiest to remember. If we remember that the bottom line note is E, we can easily count backwards. Now, if we have a new note and we need to discover what is that note's name right there, well, we can do it by two ways. We can first say, okay, well, we know that this note here is E. So now I'm going to count backwards. I'm going to go E, D, C will be on that line. The next one will be B in this space in between, and the next one will be A. Another way to do it, if you can remember where middle C is, we know that middle C is there, right there. There's middle C. Because middle C sits on its own little leader line, the first leader line below the stave for the treble clef. So that means that we can see, okay, I'm going to skip a space and go to the next line. That means I'm going to skip one in the alphabet going backwards to the previous one. So it's going to be C to A, C, B to A. So that's another way that you can make use of middle C, and that's why middle C is such an important note, because it's a very, very good reference note to determine where we need to go with the music. For notes top of the stave, we're going to do exactly the same thing. So we know the top note there is F because of every good boy deserves fun. And from there we can just go stepwise up. So the first note touching the top of the stave will be G, followed by A, followed by B, followed by C, followed by D. So we have our notes then going upwards, G, A, B, C, and D. Let's just remove these notes here. There we go. Alright, so we have our notes G, A, B, C, and D. Also going stepwise up with the music alphabet. Look at this. So we did F was the top note on the stave, the line note there. The next one will be G, but then the music alphabet needs to reset. So it's going to go back to A, B, C, and D. And those are the notes for the treble clef. The bass clef works a little bit different, and it's not actually much more trickier than the treble clef. We just need to remember one simple rule. If I start at the bottom here and I go up, just first looking at the notes that are on the stave itself, I'm going to have to move up all my alphabet 3 steps, meaning that if this bottom note for the treble clef was E, this one will then start on G, using the steps A, because the alphabet resets after G, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. Now look at that. So we have E, 3 steps up will be G, E, F, G. We have F, 3 steps up from F will be A, and we have B, 3 steps up from G will be B, and so on. So the bass clef is always 3 steps ahead of the treble clef. So whenever you see a note that you need to identify for the bass clef, you can either then say, okay, I struggle a little bit with the bass clef notes, but I remember that the treble clef starts on E, and then I need to count up 3 notes. So I can then go and say, okay, if this was a treble clef note, that would have been E, but now it's a bass clef note. So it's going to be E, F, G. 3 notes up, and that's how we get to G. The other way that we can remember is we can also apply rhymes to the bass clef stave. And we're going to have to use 2 rhymes, because if we have a look at the space notes, it doesn't really spell a word. It spells ace, but then ga, so akaga or akeg. I don't know, that just doesn't make sense. So we're going to use a very, very, very easy and simple rhyme to remember for the space notes for the bass clef. But let's just start with the treble clef, the line notes first. So the line notes, we're going to say, okay, green, skipping that one, buses, skipping that one, drive fast always. So we can say green buses drive fast always. You can use your own rhyme as well if you'd like. You don't have to use the ones that I do here. So something that you will associate easy with. And then for the space notes in between, for example, A there, we can say the following. All cows eat grass. All cows eat grass. So we have green buses drive fast always for the line notes, and then we have all cows eat grass for the space notes. And then the easiest way for me to remember the leader line notes above and below the stave for the bass clef is to then count up again like we did with the treble clef, or then say, what if this was a treble clef note? Then we add 3 up in the alphabet. So for the bottom part here, we're going to have G for the bottom line note, and then we're going to have F, followed by E, followed by D, followed by C, followed by B. Very, very low note indeed there, B. So we're going to say B, followed by C, D, E, and F. Right, then we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, the notes that are on the lines, and then for the notes that are on the top leader lines above the stave, we're going to have B, followed by middle C again, middle C, that's middle C, because it's on the first line above the stave for the bass clef, or the first line there below the stave for the treble clef. And then we're going to go from there D, E, and F. B, followed by C, middle C, D, E, and F. So there are all the notes that a grade 2 student for Trinity College need to remember. Now, what then if we need to add accidentals? Now, when we add an accidental, say for example we have this note here. Let's quickly work it out together. First of all, it is a space note. It is for the treble clef. So I know for space notes for the treble clef, I'm going to use face. Starting from the bottom space, I'm going to say, okay, the bottom space is F, and then the next one will be A, because A is the next letter in the word face. So I'm going to say this is A. But if I add a sharp to this A, so if I raise this A by a semitone, meaning that I create a sharp, let's just move it a little bit further that you can see very easy. So if I then create a sharp, it's going to be a sharp. And look closely, the accidental is put before the note when we write the note itself. But when we need to identify the note by writing the note name, we put the accidental after the letter. So the rule is before the note, but after the letter. And this works for any note. Say for example we have a note right here. We're going to work out what is this note's name, and let's make it a flat this time around. So we have that note there, and we need to identify it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to use our rhymes. We know from our rhymes going up to the very top of the stave for the treble clef, we have every good boy deserves fun. And then from there we need to count up space-wise. So if that's F, the one in between in the space there will be G, and the next one will be A. So this note is an A. So this one will be A flat. There we go, so A flat. Let's work out one for the bass clef, 1 or 2 for the bass clef. So I've got this note right here. Let's choose this one. And let's make it a natural this time around. So we're going to we need to identify what is this note's name. Now, we have to be specific in music. We can't just write a B because it's natural, it's actually just a B. But we can't just write the letter B. We need to indicate as well, be specific and say that this is actually a B natural. So I'm going to now add it in. So remember, before the notes, but after the letter. Very, very important. And we're going to put our natural sign like so, or draw it in. And remember, the natural sign is a normal 7 and an upside down 7. Let's work out one final note. Let's do another sharp, and we're going to work out what is that note right there. Let's move it around into the middle here. Alright, so first things first, I need to identify is this a line or space note. Well, this is a space note, but it is a legion line note, so I'm not going to be quite too concerned with this. I'm going to use my reference, the top line right there, to quickly count up. This is for the bass clef, so I need to remember that it's not going to be the same for the treble. So I can now say, okay, I can use my rhyme. I'm going to say bass clef. I'm going to say green buses drive fast always. It's an A for the top line. B's next, C or middle C will be on that line there, so this will be a D sharp. Alternatively, I can say, okay, if this was a treble clef note, this would have been F, because every good boy deserves fun. And from there I can count up G, A, B. And remember that the bass clef notes are always 3 steps ahead, so it's going to be B, C, D. This note here will be a D. Both comes to the same note. And then we're going to draw in the notes. So we're going to say, okay. Remember the rule, before the note but after the letter. So we're going to draw D and we're going to add our sharp sign like so. And that is how we identify note names with accidentals. If you found this video helpful, please remember to subscribe to the channel. You'll see on screen here that you can have a look at the Trinity College Grade 1 theory note names as well. There I explain most of the note names as well. I might use a little bit of different terminology or different rhymes for line and space notes, but they all come to the same. Remember, you can use your own rhymes. You can make up your own rhymes as you go along. You don't have to use mine. But this is, for a beginner, the easiest way to remember or try to identify notes. And the most important thing to do is not just to learn it and forget it, but in the link you'll find a link to a web page that will have some manuscript paper. Please click on it and download and print some manuscript paper and practice your notes. Practice writing your notes. Alternatively, I've also added a link that will link directly to my website, and there you can download a sample exercise that I've compiled that you can use to practice your note names.